This is the last part of the Hard Stuff series, and today we're talking about parenting. And like Pastor Tyler said, he asked me to speak on this. A little bit of my background. I've been a children's pastor, been a youth pastor, associate pastor, now I'm a care pastor, therapist. I've worked with child crime investigations for Greene County. I've done reunification plans and forensic interviewing with families to get families back together. Currently work for a residential facility overseeing the treatment of kids. And what I have found out is I don't have it figured out. Parenting is very, very hard, and luckily the Bible has some things to say about parenting and also has put some great wise people in my life to pull knowledge from that I can pass along. And to kind of illustrate a little bit of how hard parenting is, I'm going to pull up some pictures here. Start with the first one. Now this is me, late 80s, and those are natural blonde highlights in my hair. That's I want you to pay close attention to the beautiful blonde locks that I have at that point. Next up, we have me with the lovely Laura. This is circa 1992, just starting out, and it was just the original T family, just me and Laura. Got a little bit of the facial hair going on prior to any kids. Now we put in our first child. Little baby Drew. You notice the little less of the blonde locks. The forehead is a little bigger at that point, because of parenting is hard. Next up, we added another member of the family. I got a lot of forehead going on, lots of forehead going on. Laura's nice and tan. I just got lots of forehead. So, with two kids, still got a little bit on the side. I still hadn't come to grips with it yet. And then, got all three of my boys there. You notice that I got a couple teenagers in there, one that's preteen, hair's gone. It just that's parenting again, is hard. And by the time my kids are all grown, I just let the gray show and I just put on a hat. That's just a visual illustration of how hard parenting is. All right, now with with parenting, there's a lot that we don't know, a lot that we just a lot of trial and error. But if we take a step back and we look at what parenting is, like an outsider's view, a lot of it would be just getting your kids there on time. Just rushing around. And a lot of you can kind of relate to that. We got to get them to football practice, soccer practice. We got to get them to drama. We got to get them here. We got to get them there. Parenting is all about getting our kids somewhere on time so that they can have these great experiences. And we want them to do that because we want them to have experiences that we did not have. But this type of just go, let them have these experiences, what that does, it allows our children to be experience rich, but relationship poor. Let me say that again. By having that type of thing where we want our kids to have all these great experiences, but we don't spend the time as a family, it allows them to be experience rich and relationship poor. But we know as adults that experiences are our relationships are very important. Relationships will determine, what we are and who we are through the rest of our lives there. And we have to have a good marriage. You have to be good in your relationships. To be good at your career, work, you have to have a good relationship. But we're not setting up our children for that right now. And speaking of children, I know that we have some, lots of parents out here. We got parents, we got people that want to be parents, will be parents. We have lots of singles, and we talk a lot about relationships today so that, there's something applicable to everyone here. And for you teenagers out there, for CGM members out in the audience there, I will be addressing parents, but I want to give you a few verses just to chew on while I'm talking to your parents there. First, I want to talk to, like I say, this is for the CGM, this is for the kids here right now. First, I want to talk, Leviticus 29. It says, "For anyone who curses his father or his mother shall surely be put to death." Don't be cussing at your parents. There's consequences for the way you talk to your parents. And the next verse I want you guys to really take to heart, to really think on and pray on, dwell on, is Proverbs 30:17, my personal favorite verse. "The eye that mocks a father and scorns to obey the mother will be picked out by the ravens of the valley and eaten by vultures." The next time The next time your parent tells you to put away the phone, or it's time to shut the video game off, and you roll your eyes at your parents, a big bird could swoop down, rip it out, and eat it. So kids, just take in these verses and dwell on them while I talk to you. I'll tell your parents there. All right. So back to parenting there. Like I say, parenting, making sure that your kids are not just experience rich, but they all have these good relationships. So think about who you are and think about the regrets that you've had in your life. And a lot of that would be based off the relationships and the people that you had exposure to throughout your life. Think about, everybody's seen the movie Napoleon Dynamite. You remember Uncle Rico? He kept saying, if I could just go back, if Coach could just put me in. And he got online and bought this device to go back in time. Well, it didn't work for Uncle Rico, but what if we could do something like that? What if we had this device that will let us travel back in time, and this device had 3 dials on it, and these dials allowed us to adjust the relationships that we have throughout time. There are 3 very important relationships that we'd want to dial people in or out. Those relationships are the relationships with friends, people outside the home, our relationship with God, and our relationships with family. Just think about, your back in time relationships. Think about, even what if I, could spend a little less time with that girl next door, things wouldn't affect me the rest of my life. Or what if I was a Christian earlier in my life and I could have dialed God in earlier in my life? Or what about family? Family shapes who we are. What if I could dial in a little less dad and a little more mom, or vice versa, different times of life? We would do that. We would be a different person now than what we are if we could dial in those relationships. Well, let you guys in a little secret. With your kids, you can do that. You have the ability to dial in these 3 relationships. The relationships with friends and people outside the home, the relationships with God, and the relationships with you as parents. You have the ability to do that. You have the hand on the dial to affect these relationships. This it's not only not only do we have the ability to do this, we have the responsibility as parents to affect these relationships, all 3 of these relationships. But first, we're going to talk about relationships outside of the home. The direction of our life is greatly influenced by people in our lives, outside the family. And you think about some of the biggest regrets that you have in your life, it's probably due to people you hung out with. Friends from school, friends from work. You do things that you regret. And if you could go back in time, you can say, well, I need to keep this person out of my life. Or it might be, I needed more of this youth pastor in my life. I needed more of this aunt or uncle who was a great influence. I needed more of them in my life. People outside of your immediate family, you want to try to dial in while you dial other people out. Proverbs 13:20 tells us, whoever walks with the wise becomes wise, but the companion of fools will suffer harm. It's telling us that we want our kids to be with wise people, but also stay away from the fools. So the question is, how do we keep the fools away from our kids? How do we dial some people out? How do we dial others in? One thing, you have to be very deliberate in keeping the right people in your kid's life and the wrong people out. It's if you have a feeling that, this person might not be the right person for my kid to hang out with or date, you're probably right. Make it hard for that person to be around. And if you are wondering about them, stalk them. Get on. That's why we have Facebook and Instagram. Me and my wife were talking to my father-in-law, and we're talking about different things of the family. And my father-in-law goes, "How did you know that? How'd you know that?" We're like, "Because of Facebook." And he was like, "Well, I need something where I can just get on there and just see what they're doing, and I don't have to interact with anybody." And my wife's like, "Well, Dad, that's called Creepbook." He goes, "Ooh, is that a thing?" So no, but if know who your children are hanging out with. Know who their families are. It is your obligation, your responsibility to do that. And if they're hanging out with the wrong people, Make it hard for them to do that. Ground them from those people. But something that me and my wife, we decided that we're never going to do, we are not going to ground them from church or the good people. And then my kids could come to me and say, hey, I want to go hang out with Sally. Nope, you're grounded. Okay. You want to go to Matthew's house? You sure? But I thought I was grounded. You are grounded. But you can go hang out with Matthew, or can I go out with my friends tonight? Nope, you can't go out with your friends. But tomorrow night, you can go to church. Why would we want to ground them from church? Keep them, the bad out and the good in. Make it hard for them to hang around the questionable people there. At some point in your child's life, they will want guidance from someone other than you. As a parent, this is very hard for me to accept. Nobody's more qualified to give my kids advice than I am. But then I know I'm not going to be the one that they come to all the time. And the main reason is because I make the rules. The reason why your kids won't always come to you while they'll share things with other people is because you make the rules. They're not going to share everything with you. So you have the responsibility to dial in the right people in their lives who will give them advice. For example, whenever we're counseling, we might have a young lady come to us. And this is a real scenario. A young lady comes through and says, Pastor Andy, can I talk to you? Like, sure. He sits down there and says, Pastor Andy, I'm dating this boy, and he's wanting to do things I'm not comfortable with. He's wanting to cross boundaries I'm not comfortable crossing. And as a counselor, as a pastor mentor, I can give her some great advice, give her objective advice. Here's what you need to do. Here's how we can get through this and everything. As a parent, if that was my daughter, that would be totally different. As soon as my daughter would have said to me, Dad, I got this boy who's wanting to cross some boundaries, the conversation would be over. I'd be out the door going, Laura, get my gun and a shovel. We got to take care of something there. And your kids know this. So they're not always going to come to you with every problem. So you got to make sure that you set those right relationships, dial those right relationships in there. Support their youth leaders, support their small groups, support the CGen leaders. Those are the relationships that they want. Like I say, you might not always be the most objective person in their lives there. We had one of my boys, Harrison, my youngest boy, came to us one time, and he's having trouble with a bully in junior high, that shocked me because Harrison was like twice the size of the other kids in school. So the kid was coming up behind him and like grabbing his lunch and just smashing his lunch in his bag and having all these problems. And he came to me and he said, Dad, what do I do about this bully? And I'm like, this is what I've been waiting for. And I'm thinking, I did a little stint as a semi-pro wrestler. And I'm thinking, all right, what could you suplex, pile drive? This kid can be put in a locker. I'm thinking of all this stuff that we could do to take care of this bully. And I said, well, what do you think, son? He's like, well, maybe we should pray that Jesus changes his heart. And there's something inside of him. And I was like, you're right. Thanks for making me, the lesson of humility, son. But he didn't get that from me. He got this from leaders like Ken and Paul that we had put in their lives previously that would give them good advice on things like that. So, remember, in Proverbs, the last part of Proverbs 13:20 says, whoever walks with the wise becomes wise. Put the wise people in their lives. Dial them in, because your kids are going to get off track. They're going to drift away. But if you put the right people in their lives, dial that relationships in, they'll always come back. All right. So the next relationship we'll talk about is the relationship with God. We all want something bigger in our lives, and our kids do too. And one of the greatest fears that you have as a parent, that I have, is that our kids will turn away from God. And that is a real, legitimate fear. And the two times that your children will more likely turn away from God is going to be that transition from junior high to high school, and the next time is when they go off to college. And the reasons for that is in college, these kids have their own, they don't have their own faith. They don't have their own relationship with God. They're relying on the relationship that their parents have with God. So they don't know what they believe. So it's really easy for them to be influenced another way because they didn't have that relationship in the beginning. And between that transition between junior high and high school, it's because a lot of times they've been given a hypocritical example. God has not been a priority in their lives. It's like, okay, yeah, we have church this Sunday, but we got something else going on. We're going to have some family time instead of going to church. We're going to go to a soccer tournament instead of going to church. All these things, a priority. You put God. God's important, but also this is important. This is important too. In your child's life, God needs to be the most important. Several Easters ago, we got home from church and we're getting ready for dinner, and we called all the kids to come eat. One of them didn't come. Our youngest one, who was a little toddler, we couldn't find him. So we're searching the house, and every second that passed away, we're getting more and more frantic. Where's our baby? Where's our baby? It got to where, all of a sudden we're panicking. Nothing else mattered at that moment than my child's physical safety there. We were like going knocking on the door, the neighborhood and everything. In fact, I had the phone in my hand, and I had dialed 911, and I looked down, and I saw him. He had crawled underneath the highboy dresser and was asleep, just taking a nap. So, but it was just, like I say, nothing else mattered in that moment right there than my child's physical safety. Could you imagine if I would have said to my wife at that point when we're looking for them, well, no, don't worry about it. One of the neighbors might bring them back. Or so that's not our responsibility to find them. We have insurance. We can call the doctor. Maybe the doctor can help find them there. That's we pay for it. No, as a parent, it was our responsibility to make sure that he was found, that he was safe. And we need to have that same approach with their relationship with God. And there's nothing more important than our child's spiritual relationship with God. You have to, and you as a parent, have the biggest influence on that relationship with God. I'm glad that you bring your children to church. I'm glad that you're part of the Courageous Church. But if you got into the Bible, if you looked in the Bible and you tried to find all the passages where it talks about how the church raises up children, you're not going to find it. You're going to find scripture after scripture that talks about the responsibility of the parent raising up the child. You have the influence. You are going to be the spiritual leader in your home, and you're going to show them the importance of a relationship with God one way or the other. Proverbs 3, 5, and 6 tells us, trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge him, and he will make your path straight. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. What is your family identity? Is your family identity centered on Christ? Are you known as the family that trusts the Lord, that serves the Lord? Are you known as something else? If you're known as something else, it's time to get back on track. Children need to understand that God's plan is best for them. So how do we turn that dial to have more of a relationship with God in our kids' lives? Well, first thing, you need to ask 3 questions. The first question is, what do I want them to become? What do you want your kids to become? I remember growing up, my Granny Tate, every time I would visit her, I would tell her like I want to be something that was based off something TV. She said, Granny, when I grow up, I want to be a mercenary like the A-Team. And she was like, well, as long as you're serving the Lord. Next time I come around, Granny, I want to be a professional wrestler. You can be a wrestler as long as you're serving the Lord. That's that mentality we need to have with our kids. We want them to be successful, but we also, first, we want them to be serving the Lord. So what do I want? What is the end game? What is the end? You keep the end in mind. What do we want them to become? And then we need to ask, where are they now? Where's your, take the spiritual temperature of a child. Is your child serving Christ Jesus Christ the way he needs to be? You need to know that. Ask questions. Talk to your child. And lastly, the question, how can I help them take the next step? There's certain habits that you need to help form with your kid. Prayer, devotion, fleeing temptation. tithing. These are things that you need to set the example for to turn that dial. It's your responsibility to help them in that relationship with God. And the next relationship talk about is the relationship with parents. Nothing impacts the trajectory of life more than the relationship with the parents. I know that we're talking a lot about families, parenting. This can be hard for some people here. You might be a single parent raising up the child, but God is the father of the fatherless. He gives you a special amount of strength and grace by raising up these kids, as a single. But you might not be single forever. So I want to talk a little bit about parenting and families there. The greatest gift you can give your child is the gift of a Christ-centered marriage. A Christ-centered marriage shows grace. It shows respect. It shows forgiveness, humility. A Christ-centered marriage is two people trying to outserve each other. And this is a wonderful example that you can give your kids. Your kids, the relationship with the parents sets the tone for all the other relationships they're going to have throughout their life. So, you got to make sure that is a good, healthy, Christ-centered relationship. There's not an instruction manual on, the relationship with your kids. So, we try to give you some insight here. One is your kids need to trust you. It's to build that relationship. It's based off of trust. So, how do I build that trust in my family? Well, one thing is you need to spend time with them. Time talking to them, time just doing things. That's the main thing. Because, flip back here, the quality of the relationship will determine the weight of your influence. When your kids are little, you can influence them by your size. If you have a kid that he needs to put on his coat, you can just pick him up, put his coat on him. If your kid needs to stay with you in Walmart, you can just hold their hand, walk them through Walmart. If you get your kid to get into a car, you have that size advantage when they're little. You can just put them in the car. I guarantee you that my mom right now cannot put me in the car. I could put my mom in the car now. There's going to be a point where your size does not matter anymore. And that's usually around the junior high. You need to make that transition from size to a relationship to be able to influence your kids. And sometimes people have a hard time with that transition. They think about, well, I'm not bigger than them anymore, but I got things they want. It's like, all right, you want to, do this. Well, I got the car keys. You have to do this before I give you those car keys. They try to use power to influence the kids instead of relationship. And what that does, that starts to erode the relationship with your kids there. But you need that relationship because that influence is so important as they get older. And size and power has nothing to do with it. You think about when your kids need your influence most, when they get older, it's like whenever they start to date. Who are they going to marry? Where are they going to go to school? What career are they going to have? These are decisions that unless you have a good relationship with your kids, you will not be able to influence when it matters most. So you need to work on that relationship. So some of the ways that you can do that is, build that trust in them, because there's going to come a time when you're not going to have all the answers. And I've said this many a time to my children, you're just going to have to trust me on this. If you haven't been there, you will be there. So some of the ways that you can build that trust is you have to allow your children the luxury to be able to fail. Failure without effort is unacceptable, but failure with effort is acceptable there. They need to know that they cannot lose your love. One of the most challenging times for me has been whenever I find out that one of my kids has gone to my wife and said, "Can you tell Dad this? Because, I failed my driver's test and I'm scared to tell Dad that I did this. Or, I didn't do well in this class. Can you tell Dad?" right then that shows me that my relationship needs to be better. I need to dial in my relationship a little bit better because they don't trust me enough to tell me this. They're worried that they might lose my love because they failed something. Your kids need to know they can never lose your love by failing at something there. Ephesians 6:4 tells us fathers, but, it could be fathers, mothers, parents. Fathers, do not exasperate your children. Instead, bring them up in training and instruction in the Lord. Now, exasperate, that could, some of the versions of the Bible says, do not bring your children to wrath. What it's saying is, do not put your children in a no-win situation. Do not make them so angry that, they have no way out. One time with my oldest son, Drew, he had a bad habit of not using his utensils to eat. He would and I would tell him, son, use your fork. Son, use your spoon. So one day we were sitting there and I looked over and he's eating a salad with his fingers. I said, son, listen, if you don't use your fork, I'm going to pick it up and stab you with it. A little bit later, I look over, he's picking up his food with his fork. I'm a man of my word. I grabbed his fork, boom, didn't draw blood. But I stabbed him with the fork. He got mad, bad at me. And he said some things to me that he shouldn't have said. But I set him up for failure. I put him in that situation that I had exasperated him, I had brought him to wrath. There was no situation. You can't do that with your kids. You have to mind your tone. You have to watch what you say with your kids. Famous psychologist Dr. Gottman, he's the principle was called the 5-to-1 principle, meaning that for every negative interaction, you have to have 5 positive interactions to undo that. So every time you yell at your kid, you call your kid an idiot, you call your kid a disappointment, you have to do 5 things to undo that, or that damage is done. It takes 5, I'm proud of you, 5, I love you, 5 hugs, 5 things, 5 positive interactions to undo 1 negative interaction. That is just talking to your kids. With you to have daughters out there, when you talk to the daughters, they like that face-to-face conversation. They like to, sit down and talk to them. And sons, boys, they like that, to do things shoulder to shoulder. Talk to the girls face to face, talk to the boys shoulder to shoulder. They like to do things. That's when you communicate with them. And if your relationship with your child is broken, whether that is a younger child or if that is with your adult children, you need to fix it. It is, and this is a hard thing, to do sometimes. But the way that you fix it, Christ has given us the model is you need to serve. Christ came to earth and he said that he wanted to serve and not be served. Missionaries, when they go out to the field, they serve to build these relationships here. You cannot family tree your way back in. You have to serve your way back in. You can't category your way. I'm the dad, you're the son, you have to respect me. If that relationship's broken, you have to serve. With not bribe. You got to serve with humility. Just do these for them to get that relationship, back on track. And also, if your relationship's broken and you're upset at your child, pray for them. Pray for them every day. It's hard to be mad at someone that you're praying for. Yes. Try it out there. Now, there's a time with one of my sons that we were broken. What it is we got into an argument and he jumped up, got in my face, had his fist all clenched and everything. And I said choice things. He said things to me back and walked off. And I realized right then, we're broken and we need to be fixed. But I did not know how to do it. Through all my training, all my education, I did not know how to fix that relationship with my son. So what I did is I prayed. I was like, God, show me the way to fix this with my son. You know what? At that moment, nothing was revealed to me except for that broken lawnmower in my garage. So I said, come here, son. We sat down in the garage. We fixed the lawnmower. Pretty much him in silence and me talking to him. We got done. We were not fixed yet. he was still upset. We still had that wedge between us. I kept praying, God, how can I fix this? Nothing was revealed to me at that time except for those shelves that need to be put up in the garage. So we put shelves up in the garage, shoulder to shoulder. We spent that time together, me talking, him listening. And every day, I found something else that needed to be fixed around our house. My wife was really enjoying that, but we fixed it. By the end of a week or so, just spending that time shoulder to shoulder with my son, it was fixed. That wedge had been removed. And I can't think of anything else I did other than just spend the time with him, shoulder to shoulder, working on it there. So if you have that relationship with your child is broken, fix it. Pray that God will reveal to you what needs to be fixed and how to do it there. I want to pray with you. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for the model that you have given us, Lord. Thank you for your example of serving, not to be served, Lord. Thank you for the relationship that you want to have with us, Lord. And right now, we ask that you give us wisdom, you give us guidance on how to put that relationship and how to get on the right path for you, Lord. And ask that you give us, humility, you give us grace, and you give us the way to show people forgiveness the way that you've forgiven us, Lord. And just show us the path to get to these relationships, Lord. And we ask that, you give us, the ability and the wisdom to raise up our children in a Christ-centered family, Lord. And right now, Lord, we ask that you keep us strong and courageous. Amen.